Hello friends. In today's lecture, we'll be discussing about the further part of the optoelectronics. In last lecture, we have seen the microwave microwave type of detectors for motion detector, as well as we have seen the principle of optoelectronic sensors. Now today we are going to discuss in detail about the optoelectronic motion detectors. So our first focus will be on visible and near infrared light motion detectors. We said that we can have the optoelectronic motion detectors in three ranges, that is visible, near infrared and far infrared. So first our focus will be on visible and near infrared motion detectors. We will be discussing how exactly it works and how its structure will be. So most of the objective radiates the electromagnetic waves only in far infrared spectral range. So we know that our body also radiate the electromagnetic waves, and that will be in the range of far infrared spectral range. And visible and near infrared light motions detectors, they rely additional source of light which illuminates the project. That means these are the active optoelectronic detectors, and the far infrared is the passive infrared type of passive detectors. So such illumination may be sunlight or invisible infrared light uh, from the additional near infrared light source, and that will be get reflected back from the object, and that will be detected by the your sensor. So light is get reflected by the object body towards the focusing device for the subsequent detection. And to turn on the lights off, so let us consider the here the example is taken like that. To turn on the light off in an unoccupied room, the visible range motion detector was combined with a timer and a solid state relay. Now let us consider that in a room no one is there and you want to turn off the light, or you want to turn off the electrical devices which are turned on. So this is a energy management concept, or this is the energy management application. So where you want to switch off the lights. So if this is what the example is considered, what will be the condition? So detector is activated when the room is illuminated. The detector is in activated mode when the room is illuminated. That means light is present in the room. Now what will happen? When the room is illuminated, the sensor acts as a miniature photographic camera. So the sensor may be a photo detector, or it may be a photoregister type of device. So it will act as a miniature photographic camera, but the film is not there. The only thing is that instead of film, the photo detector or a photoresistive material is there. So an image of its field of the view is formed on the surface of photoresistor. So we know that the lens will be there and the focal length will be adjusted, and the inverted image will be on the plane of your photoresistor, and moving people in the room cause the image to change in such a way that the optical contrast changes across the uh, uh, serpentine pattern. Serpentine pattern means zigzag type of pattern of photoresistor. Okay. So if the people are there and they are moving in the room, so what will happen? Because of that, the optical contrast will change. That means the light falling on the sensor will change, and the light falling on the sensor will change, and that will be detected by the photoregister, which is in serpentine type of pattern. Serpentine type of pattern, you can see the image and you can easily identify it. So in turn, the resistor value will change, which results in the modulation of electric current passing through the element, and it will be detected that the motion is there. That means person is there. And the signal for the signal that is received from the photoresistor, that is in the form of current, electric current, is further amplified and compared with the predetermined threshold. So upon crossing the threshold, the comparator generates the electric pulse which resets after 15 minutes timer. So that will be resetted again after 15 minutes timer. So here it is the example. So you can see that this is a pinhole lens. Here it is, and it is kept over here. This is the mirror, and this is what the range captured by the that mirror, and the ray will come like this, and it will be reflected back through these pinholes, and it will be come on this surface, and this surface is nothing but this is a photoresistive type of material, and you can see that it is in spiral type of that's why it is called as a serpentine type of resistor. So this is a photoresistor. So this image will change the optical contrast on this one, and because of that optical contrast, the resistance will change. The resistance will cause to change in the current, and that current will get amplified. And if it goes beyond the threshold and below the above the threshold, the circuit will be resetted after a specific timing of 15 minutes. Let us, the example is taken over here, it is as a 15 minutes. So if no motion is detected within 15 minutes from the last moment, the timer will be turned off in the room, and then it is turned on again manually. So you cannot detect it. Again, you can have a circuit which can detect the motion and it can turn it on automatically also. That is also quite possible. But here we will consider that you have to turn it on manually. If no motion is detected, the device will be turned off after 15 minutes automatically, and you have to turn it off manually. But again, you can make it switch on with a different circuitry, with additional circuitry. You can make it switch on automatically also. That is also quite possible. Okay, but the problem with this kind of system is that this optoelectronic device, it cannot detect why you have to turn it on manually, because if light is not there, then the darkness is there, and optoelectronic device such like this visible optoelectronic device, since light is not there in the room, so object reflection will be very less and optical contrast will be very less, and their device may not be that much sensitive, and that will not turn it on. So that is what the problem is. That's why you have to turn it on manually. Okay. Now to overcome this, again, that is the problem with the visible and near infrared. Now to overcome this and to increase the detection, you need not have a light to be turned on and turned off, because there you will require a illumination. That means the active type of detectors are there. But here the far infrared motion detector, it also works on the thermal radiation from the object. That means a passive detector is used. So another version of motion detector called as a far infrared, which operates on the optical range of the thermal radiation. That means your body radiates certain heat, and that heat is radiated because our body consists the temperature, and it radiates heat to the surrounding, and that heat is detected by the sensor, and that is what the principle used by this far infrared type of detector. So such detectors are responsive to the radiative heat exchange between the sensing element and the moving object. Sensing element means your sensor, and moving object means it may be a human being, it may be animal, because it consists of body temperature. So every object has its own temperature. So specifically living contents have much more heat in their body, so we can easily detect such kind of responses. Now the principle of this thermal motion detector is based on the physical theory of emission of electromagnetic radiation from any object whose temperature is above absolute zero. So your body temperature is above absolute zero, that's why you are able to measure the energy, you are able to measure the thermal radiation from your body with the help of such kind of thermal motion detectors, and that is called as a far infrared motion detectors. So for motion detection, it is essential that the surface temperature of the object be different from that of the surrounding object, so the thermal contrast would exist. Obviously, the temperature of your body and the temperature of the surrounding is totally different. Okay, your body temperature is less and surrounding temperature is more, then again you can observe that difference. Your body temperature is more and your surrounding temperature is less, then again you can measure the difference. That is also quite possible. So as the season changes, so such kind of exchanges occur in the environment and your body. So you can easily observe such kind of phenomena when it is a summer, when it is a winter, when it is a rainy season, or if you are sitting in a air cooled room, you can easily identify such kind of body exchange in your temperature exchange in your body. So you can easily identify. So all the objects that will give out the thermal radiation from their surfaces, and the intensity of that radiation is governed by Stefan Boltzmann's law. So that Stefan Boltzmann's law, we studied it in previous lectures. So you just try to recall it. So whatever may be the thermal radiation that is given out from your body, that is governed by this law. So we will see what that equation is and what the thermal, how it is related with the thermal flux that is associated with that particular body. So all the objects that will radiate the energy from their surface, we have already studied that if the object is warmer than the surrounding, then its thermal radiation is shifted towards the shorter wavelength and intensity becomes stronger. So if your body or the object, let us consider that you are taking a very hot pan with you, so your object that will again give the thermal radiation to the surrounding, and that will give you the shift of shorter wavelength and the intensity becomes stronger. So because if the intensity is high, the wavelength is shorter. So this is what we have studied it in previous lecture. So non-metal radiates the thermal energy quite uniformly and within the hemisphere, and the dielectric objects generally have a high emissivity. So these are the characteristics that are associated with the different materials. And human skin is the best emitter, and its emissivity is near about 90%, and most of the fabrics in the range of so please read it as a fabrics, it is in the range of 0.74 to 0.95. Okay, so okay, so there are two types of infrared motions are detectors, far infrared detectors are there. So first one is the passive infrared, that is called as a PIR sensor, and second one is the active far infrared, that is AFIR sensor. So our focus will be on PIR sensor. Okay. Now our focus will be on PIR motion detectors. So PIR sensing element is responsive to the far infrared radiation within the spectral range of 4 to 20 micrometer. So this is the generally thermal power which is given out by the emanated means given out by the human beings or animals. So whatever may be our body gives out the energy, it is in the form of thermal energy, and that is in the range of 4 to 20 micrometer. So you just keep in the mind that the question may be asked, what is the spectral range for PIR sensor? So you should know that it is 4 to 20 micrometer. Okay. So there are the three types of sensing elements which are generally used for such kind of detectors. First one is the thermistor, then thermopiles and pyroelectrics. So these are the sensing elements that are generally used for PIR sensors: thermistors, thermopiles and pyroelectric materials. And pyroelectric elements are most popular because of its simplicity, low cost, high responsivity and the broad dynamic range. So it is mostly used. What is pyroelectric? That means whenever the pyroelectric principle is that whenever heat is transferred, that will generate an electric charge in such materials, and that electric charge is proportional to the heat radiated towards that particular material or element. So that is what the simplest principle that is used for this PIR sensor. So the pyroelectric material generates an electric charge in response to the thermal energy flow through the body. We will see the example also. Because of all, the pyroelectric materials are also piezoelectric type of materials. They absorb the heat on one side of the sensing element to expand the material. So when the heat is given, so it will expand, and that expansion will cause a charge to be developed on the piezoelectric side of the other part, and that charge will be taken out in the form of current, and that current will be directly proportional to the heat. This is what the simple principle is. So this thermal stress will lead the piezoelectric charge to be developed at electrode, and this is what the principle is. When this is the material, this is the one side of the material which is get exposed to the thermal radiation. So when no thermal radiation is there, radiativity is there, at that time the voltage developed across this one will be zero. But as soon as you radiate the thermal energy, so the thermal radiation energy is greater than this TA. So this Ts is greater than TA. So this surface will expand because of this thermal property. So that will cause to change the charge across these electrodes, and the voltage induced will not be equal to zero. Now that voltage induced will be proportional to the thermal radiation. So this is what the simple principle used in PIR sensor. Okay. So the resulting thermally reduced stress lead to the development of piezoelectric charge on the element electrodes, and this charge stands as a voltage across the electrode deposited on the opposite side of the material. So to separate out thermally induced charge from piezoelectrically induced charge, now you must know that this is a piezoelectric. That means a vibration can cause piezoelectricity. You just try to recall the principle of electric material. What it says, when you apply the voltage, it deforms. Okay, and when you apply a deformation to that one, it will generate a charge or it will generate a voltage. So this principle is used in this one also, but the only thing is that the material is pyroelectric type of material, and that pyroelectric which is proportional to the expansion of that surface, and that expansion is proportional to the thermal radiation. So the pyroelectric sensor is usually fabricated in symmetrical form. Why it is fabricated in symmetrical form? So we know that if noise is there, then and it is in opposite form. So whenever the noise is generated, so the noise, if it is generating a thermal energy, then one electrode, let us consider that this is one electrode number 1 and this is electrode number 2. So one electrode will generate a positive charge, and the second electrode, which is connected in opposite polarity direction, it will generate a opposite charge, so that they will cancel each other. So that is what the principle used in this PIR sensor. Okay. So the two identical elements are positioned inside the sensor's housing. The elements are connected to the electronic circuit in such a manner that they will produce the out of phase signals, so that they will cancel the same inputs. So same inputs means we know the concept of CMRR. Okay, common mode rejection ratio. So the same inputs, so the same input is applied, and that same input will eliminate each, they will try to eliminate the effect, or they will try to cancel the effect of each other. So the noise or the interferences that causes such kind of effect on the PIR sensor, that will affect the overall elimination, overall error that will be caused in the sensor. So the variable thermal radiation that can be detected and will be absorbed by one of the element at a time, thus avoiding the cancellation. If the radiation is detected by both the elements, then there will not be any output. So one element will capture it first, it will generate some voltage, and second will capture it later on. So there will be a difference, between the two radiations, and that radiation will give you the effective output voltage, and that output voltage will be proportional to the motion. I'll show it in the last one of the diagram how exactly the voltage is generated. So here it is the principle how it is used. So you can see that this is what the electrode, and this electrode is here you can see that this is the pyroelectric element is put over here. This is the upper electrode, and these are the two lower electrodes that will generate the two voltages. So one voltage, this voltage generated because of one sensor 1 will be positive, and because of 2 it will be negative. So you can see this is how exactly the combination, how they are connected to circuit. So this is the example shown with the help of cross-sectional area of the sensor, how the pyroelectric material is connected to the electrodes in the opposite directions. So one way to fabricate the symmetrical sensor is to deposit the two pairs of the electrode on the both sides, as we have seen. So each pair will form a capacitor, because one electrode is there, and second electrode will act as a capacitor 1, and second electrode will act as a capacitor 2. Capacitor 1 and capacitor 2 they are in series with each other, just like this one. So here you can see the example of this one. So you can see that this is the upper surface, this is the pyroelectric material, so which will be expanding. So this is the pyroelectric material, and this is the electrode 1 and electrode 2. So this will form a C1 and this will form a C2. Now this will be connected to the circuit, which will amplify, which will convert this circuit into the output, which is proportional to the heat radiated to this one. Okay, now what we'll consider, the charge will be collected and this charge will flow through this resistance R. So this resistance R is very high resistance. It is in terms of 50 giga ohm. So this 50 giga ohm resistance you cannot directly connect it to the circuit. That's why you need to convert it into a proper current or a proper output. So for that purpose, this voltage follower type of JFET is used over here, and that JFET will simply take this voltage out over here. Okay, so this is what the simple connection, and this is how exactly that pyroelectric material is connected. Okay, so depending on the side of whether the electrodes are positioned, the output signal have either a positive or negative polarity for a thermal flux. So at any moment, the optical component must focus a thermal image of an object on the surface of one part of the sensor only, which occupied by a single pair of electrodes. And the element generates a charge only across the electrode pair subjected to heat flux. So what will happen? So that will cause a current I to flow through the bias resistor R from 0 to positive, because one electrode is at positive and second electrode is at negative. So 0 to positive and again 0 to negative. So such kind of working takes place in PIR sensor. So JFET transistor Q, it is an impedance converter. So we simply call it as a high resistance is get converted into low resistance by a voltage follower circuit. So resistor R is in the range of 50 giga ohm. So such values of high resistance cannot be directly connected. So Q serves as a voltage follower and its output resistance is in several kilo ohms. That means giga ohm is converted into kilo ohm. That's why it is called as a impedance converter circuit. So most of the pyroelectric elements that are using the ceramic elements because of low cost and ease of fabrication. But apart from that, there is another material, that is polymer material, polymer film, which is called as a polyvinylidene fluoride. So that is also called as a PVDF. It has an advantage of flexibility, flexible, and it is inexpensive. So you can manufacture it in any size. You can fold it, you can bend it in desirable fashion. So that is what the advantage of using this polymer film, that is polyvinylidene fluoride. So it is very difficult to pronounce, but it is a polyvinylidene fluoride. So you just like keep in mind PVDF is the proper word. Okay, so this PVDF film and the lens, they can work together to form a multifaceted curved lens. So I'll show you the diagram in the next slide, so you can easily understand the working of that one. So what exactly it is? So here you can see that. So this is the lens. This is the lens and its focal length is adjusted in such a way that whatever may be the image is there, that is exactly appearing on this film. So here it is a gap. Here it is a gap. So this is a multifaceted. That means, so you can see that they are kept apart from each other, and from there you are taking the connection, and this is the external lead which is connected to this one. Okay, so this is how you are having a film facing a lens is coated on the organic coating, which improves the absorptivity of the infrared spectral range. So focusing will be there, and that focusing will be detected, and it will be taken out as a 3 lead terminal. So the electrode will be taken plus and minus, and these are the terminals. So here between these two terminals you will be getting the voltage, and that voltage will be proportional to the object movement. And this is what the example that is available on the various applications. So this is the PIR sensor that you can, PIR module in fact. This PIR module you can directly connect it to your circuit, and it hardly cost from minimum 55 rupees to uh, several thousand rupees, depending on the application, depending on the sensitivity, and depending on the type of the material used. So this is the low cost PIR sensor which is available in the market, that you can use it for your applications. So small detectors are especially useful for the installation in the devices where overall dimensions are critical. So whenever you are using the overall dimensions, a small detector is very useful. So for instance, if you want to use as a light switch, where the detector must be mounted on the wall plate of the switch. So the best example is, yesterday I have given you the example of that water tap. So that is also the one kind of example that you can consider for this kind of application, PIR sensor. So here it is the diagram how it is exactly detected. So you can say that this is the area 1, this is the area 2. Sensor 1 will detect and sensor 2 will detect, and here you can see how exactly it is working. Okay,